Yeah, another Jurassic World Alive video, and tier list time. So this time I'm gonna split them all up. Each tier is gonna get their own video. I just don't like cramming like 200 dinos into like one video, and I just can't go over all of them as much as I would like to. So we're gonna start from the top with the S tier. That's the, you know, best of the best, I guess, kind of top tier. Pretty strong, useful, kind of nice dinos. So, anyways, let's start. I think this is how many? 13? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13. And S tier, let's start from. Let's talk about the ones that haven't really changed too much. By the way, the list is in no order of strong or weakness. It's just, I don't even know. It's not even alphabetical. It's just random. I'll try to make the other ones alphabetical. Anyways, let's start with the ones that didn't really get too much changes and to themselves, or in the tier list placement. Let's start with Trico. Trico got nerfed quite a bit this patch, obviously with the crit nerf. Hurt it quite a bit, but still overall it does its job. You know, it's here to do what it does best. Take hits and huge defense shatter rampage damage with all the like really massive counter damage as well. You know, it still does its thing. You could tank with instant distraction and then instant invincibility and look for an opportunity to throw out that big DSR to take out your opponent. Same stacks except for a bit more damage everywhere else. 4.5k health with 30% armor is absolutely incredible. Damage 1.6, and it used to be 1.6, now is 1680. Bit of an uptick there just to compensate for the crit nerf. Crit chance is still 30%. 108 speed, decent speed tier. Defense shattering strike, distraction, defense shattering rampage, visibility, medium counter attack. Has its, you know, biggest counters still out there, like Magna not so much anymore, but still. Triceratops still its biggest enemy. Among other things, Thorodolus or Carnotarkus. Carnotarkus is probably its biggest enemy now, which it's probably its most reliable killer. Moving on. Speaking of Carnotarkus is still in S tier, just because nothing really changed with Carnotarkus. Like, the only thing that really kind of changed about it was its crit chance, not crit chance, its crit damage got nerfed slightly, but like it's only 20% to begin with. Carnotarkus never really relied on its crit to really do anything, so it's basically irrelevant. The only thing that kind of changed for Carnotarkus is just like the meta around it, which you could argue it changed slightly in its favor, and you could also argue it changed slightly against it, but it's not too much to warrant a drop in a tier, so it's still around, it still does its job. You know, it takes out Trico, takes out other stuff, Thorodolus sword, as well against Dracoceratops, has that thing with Diloracheirus as well, right? So there's that. Just great dino overall. 4.5k health, 1630 damage. For some reason, Carnotarkus didn't get a damage compensation for the crit damage nerf, but whatever. 109 speed, Speardy Strike, Fan Shattering Impact, Fan Shattering Rampage, Distracting Impact, still one of the most versatile dinos in the game. And moving on, let's talk about Diloracheirus. Diloracheirus is probably the weakest one on this list. It still does its job, like huge turn 2, turn 3 damage, just keep on hitting you, like a greater stun of rampage and run, massive damage with that 1450 base, 129 speed, still does its thing. Only problem, like, it just gets killed by too many things right now. It's a great offensive machine, and if you find find the places where it could come in, you know, a good revenge kill, And if you're lucky, hopefully your opponent still doesn't have a Dracoceratops in the back, and it just rips through your opponent's team. Until your opponent pulls a counter, which there are a lot of counters to Diloracheirus right now. So that's why Diloracheirus is like at the bottom of S tier. And it hurts me to say so. It's obviously my favorite unique. Actually, that's I don't think that's a fair statement to say to Erlicos picks. But anyways, moving on. Next, let's talk about Earldom. Earldom didn't really get hurt too much by the dodge thing, although you know, of course, it did. Especially affects the matchup versus Diloracheirus, right? But overall, that damage increase kind of helps a lot. It kind of helps a lot in a lot of scenarios. So it's still not a bad dino. Not a bad dino is an understatement. It's still a great dino. Obviously, the thing that has going on with Dracoceratops, that's huge. Against Diloracheirus, is still huge. Against Renex, it still has an advantage. But yeah, it's not as effective against that as it used to be. Against non-Rex, same situation as it is with a Diloracheirus, right? But still, it's a great dino overall. Dilorachosaurus, the next one that didn't get too many changes. It literally didn't get changed at all in this patch. The only things that changed for it are the dinos around it, right? And it's still probably the strongest dino in the game, as much as I hate to say it, because I'm not a huge Dilorachosaurus fan, but it probably is the strongest dino in the game. It's the undisputed matchup king when it comes to these top tier matchups. Like, matchup wise, it's just so unbeatable. It's, yeah, you can't really beat Diloracha's matchups. And what makes Diloracha even better is not only does it have absolutely crazy matchups, like 1v1 matchups, it also has so much team utility. You could swap it in against an unsuspecting opponent who's just gonna use a strike, thinking they're gonna finish your dino off, and boom, here comes Diloracha. 1k counter damage takes out your opponent, and you know, sometimes you chain it with a impact run, rampage and run, move into this counter damage with that extra damage that you need to take out your opponent. It could do so much things. It could tank, it could do damage, all that stuff, right? So that's Diloracha. Let's see, who else? Anyways, let's just get into the stuff that got some drastic changes this time. Dracoceratops got... Okay, Dracoceratops, it lost Swap and Shattering Rampage, so it's not Shattering anymore, it's Swap and Rampage. And it got its damage buffed, so it's really hard to say if it was a buff or nerf, because although it lost the ability to shatter shields and pierce through armor, it arguably, and this is very, very controversial to say, it arguably got better. It really, like, when you really look at all these matchups, the top tier matchups, like, you're, like, even when you're using Dracoceratops, right, you're trying to get a fast kill on Diloracheirus, you're trying to get a fast kill on Renex, the stuff that leads, right? People lead with Renex a lot. Somehow people lead with Diloracheirus. I don't know why people still do that, but somehow people still do that. They lead with Diloracheirus a lot. Earldom leads. As unbelievable as it sounds, although Earldom isn't a horrible lead, not, you know, in comparison to Diloracheirus. But, you know, people lead with that. People lead with Erlicos picks. That's where Dracoceratops is most widely used. It's to kill off these fast dinos with low HP. So usually what happens in these scenarios is and especially versus Diloracheirus, you do not want to give Diloracheirus a turn 2. If you give Diloracheirus a turn 2, it's gonna run over your team. So you just want to get a hit in, lower it to an amount where the Dracoceratops can come in, take it out with swap and ramp. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this at the beginning of the video, but none of the tier list thing, it doesn't take into account any boosts. So we're all assuming level 26, no boost, right? Okay, moving, back to Dracoceratops, it's, you know, all in all, it probably got better. There are some matchups where obviously it doesn't do as well now. Say Triodis, that's a huge one, right? Triodis is a huge one. Triceratops is a huge one. But, you know, there's other things to deal with that, usually that folks pack their team with. And, like, even if you want to say it got worse, which is possible, you could totally say it got worse, right? It didn't get... It didn't get much worse so that it's gonna slide out of the S tier, right? So that's pretty... that's pretty obvious. Moving on to another huge change here. Monostegotops. Monostegotops was always borderline S tier this whole time, and the thing that finally pushed it over the top was getting rid of Null Strike. Null Strike was an absolute potato move, a total waste of a move putting it onto Monostegotops, which already has null impact, and they changed it to Distraction. Like, this whole time, it's been like, I don't know, 7-8 months that folks have been talking about Monostegotops, that if it got Distracting Impact, it would be one of the best dinos in the game. It didn't get Distracting Impact, but it did get Distraction, which is like Distracting Impact minus the 0.5 more damage. It did get Distraction, which makes it absolutely incredible. Also got a slight health buff and, you know, all-around buffs. Although, to be fair, the health last patch was nerfed down, so now it buffed it back up a bit. Still not where it used to be completely, but still, it's a buff nonetheless, right? It's just such a versatile, like, you look at its stats, it's such a solid dino. 4,350 health, 1,350 damage, 117 speed, 20% critical, 30% armor. It's rock solid Monostegotops stats. That's what you generally get from Ceratopsians, just rock solid stats with solid move sets. Nothing crazy, it's not, you're not gonna get any burst damage, but it's just really solid, consistent strength there with stuff like this. Monostegotops, Stegoceratops, all those, you know, even Sinoceratops when you go to lower levels, right? Alright, moving on to Erlicospix. Erlicospix didn't get too much changes as well. Literally didn't get changed at all. But it's still just one of the best dinos in the game, right? 1.5k damage with Precise Rampage. That takes out Dracoceratops in one hit, takes out Erldom in one hit. You know, can relatively easily deal with Diloracheirus. Like and when it faces its counters, the stuff that counter it, it could just throw out a lethal wound and put that dino on a timer, right? Like, a worst case scenario, you're gonna just throw a tie with some dino, right? And best case scenario, you will beat a lot of these top tier dinos easily with Erlicospix. So there's not too much discussion with Erlicospix. It's flat out one of the best dinos in the game. Quatsarion, this is an interesting one. So if I told you, like, I don't know how long this update's been out, like, say a month ago. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been out. It wasn't out a month ago. Oh, let's just, for argument case, let's just say it's, let's just say if I told you 2 months ago that there would be a hybrid with 130 speed, 1,650 damage, 20% crit, and I'll let you guess how much health it has, you would very reasonably say somewhere around 2.7 or, you know, 3.0, right? This thing has 3.9k health with 130 speed, with 1,650 damage, with 20% crit. Like, what the heck? Like, stats, when we're talking about stats, this is what peak performance looks like, basically. You got, like, when you're looking at stats, it's Quatsarion, absolute crazy stats, you know, all around Trico, all around crazy stats, Monostegotops. It's in that category. Like, its stats are absolutely nuts. When you look at its moveset, though, that's why you can't make a perfect dino. And it's not, and the moveset isn't necessarily bad, it's just really mediocre. Swap and dodge is a potato move. Sidestep is kind of potato as well, although it has some really great uses. Not because that it's gonna dodge or whatever, because dodge is really bad now. It's just a priority cleanse. Helps out a lot of situations, although I personally would prefer if it didn't have the priority on the cleanse, but you know, it is what it is. and also increases speed by 10%. That also helps out a lot of really interesting matchups, especially with stuff that do have speed up, which is around its range. And Earldom. And also Null Rampage with well, actually no, it doesn't help out with Earldom at all because it just one-shots Earldom. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. I would say that's good accomplishment. Although Null Rampage, if I were to be honest, I think it's a totally overhyped move. I don't think it's as good as people claim it to be. It's incredibly overhyped. It does have that one-turn delay, right? So yeah. Oh, but wait. For some reason, I thought Null Rampage didn't have one-turn delay, but yeah, I now remember that a one-turn delay. So Quaterion totally needs a sidestep to take out Earldom, which it can. Which, yeah, sidestep, Null Rampage, dead Earldom. Nothing you can do about it. Okay, poor thing. Anyways, long invincibility, you know, that's a great move, and Armor Piercing Strike, great move. Incredible dino. Moving on to Procerathomimus. Procerathomimus probably benefited the most from, of all the dinos with dodge, this Procerathomimus benefited the most from the dodge nerfs and then like the stat buffs to compensate. It got compensated hard. 1.6k damage now, 3,150 health. It was borderline S tier before, and it's unequivocally S tier. Like, it's impossible to argue against it being an S tier. It just beats so many of these other dinos in S tier and A plus and all the other tiers. Like, yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, it was so good before, and then like Ludia just made it so much better. And it's absolutely one of the best dinos in the game. Absolutely top tier. Although, fair warning, it's still an epic. It could totally get a hybrid in the future. Oh my god, if this thing ever gets a hybrid, it's gonna be absolutely crazy. As evident in another dino, which we'll talk about in a bit, which is Carnotarkus. So Carnotarkus is the hybrid of Purotors, which was already crazy, borderline S tier. And it's just a better version of Purotors. Not like crazy better than Purotors, but better. But better than Purotors is like absolutely awesome. So look at its stats: 2.9k health, 1.1k damage, 5% crit, 110 speed, 20% armor. This is like the defensive version of Purotors. Like, the only thing Purotors really has over it is it has cleanse, which is good, but then again, like the only thing that really makes a difference here is that Carnotarkus can't do much about bleeding dinos, right? But like most of the bleeding dinos it faces, it's gonna 1-for-1 them anyways. It's gonna take them out at the same time the bleed is taking itself out, because obviously it has greater render counter, 33% of your opponent's HP. Also with Precise Rampage, which it kept, which is absolutely crazy. Long protection, instant distraction, facing dinos without bleed, like, you can't do much about this dino. It will kill you. It will drag you to death with its defensive capabilities plus the greater random counter, and if it needs that Precise Rampage, it's always handy every other turn. And also Security Strike, which is nuts. So anyways, that's Carnotarkus. Who else have we not touched upon yet? Oh, Geminititan. Geminitan's an interesting one. At a glance, it doesn't seem really crazy until you see what happened to its buffs. 1.5k damage. Yeah, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but apparently someone did. And now it has 1.5k damage. The biggest problem with Gemini last patch was its damage. And now I got that one fixed. So, like, look at its moveset. Like, you got long protection, instant distraction, decel rampage. Like, you could just keep on, you know, shielding yourself. Well, not in the sense of long protection, but, you know, just defending yourself, and then find an opportunity when your opponent has a small multiplier coming your way, throw out decel rampage, massive damage, 1.5k base, and then null strike. If you ever find a use for that move, then go for it. With Geminititan. Really hard to find a use. I guess you could use it against Earldom sometimes. Yeah, and against dinos that like just like if your opponent just like has a fully buffed up like Rajakylo, just go for a Null Strike, absolutely obliterate all its buffs and take that out. Anyways, let's see. I think we've touched on all of them. Did we touch on Renex at all? Renex got a bit of an HP buff. Renex was borderline S tier before, and this patch, I guess, just made it, gave it that little boost that it needed. Not only the HP, but also the dodge nerf, which is actually huge for Renex. So that's why Renex is here. That's gonna be it for this one. That's S tier. That's basically, you know, your best tiers of dinos in 1.8. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it's helpful for you guys in any way. Leave a like if you did enjoy this video and the list. I'll also put up the graphic on our Discord, link in the description. You could go there if you want to check out the graphics. 8+ tiers should be out soon, so subscribe if you guys want to get that one as well. Also hit the notification bell if you want to get there as soon as it comes out. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.